Krimson with Diable from Furnace, and today we're going to go over a stripped down, bare to the bones fly rig, which I've assembled and which should be bulletproof for any kind of metal player out there. Hopefully these tips should help you, getting the right stuff and not to run into too many problems. So today we got to use the tools that are here on the ground. And this is usually the fly rig stuff that you need. Obviously there's one important piece missing, which is obviously the case. You need a good case, but you need a good guitar as well. In that case, the guitar which I'm showcasing today, and this is probably the guitar that I'm using most of the time, is my Philippe Dubreuil Flying V custom guitar. It's got a lot of good features to it. First of all, it's a neck through. It's got 2 graphite sticks inside and a truss rod, which is, for neck stability. It's got stainless steel frets, which are much harder than the usual frets that you get out there, and they're much easier to maintain, and they don't corrode or rust at all. This guitar is equipped with a Floyd Rose original, so don't cheap out on second best guess, like cheap Floyd Rose 1000. There are cheaper models out there, but the Floyd Rose original is pretty much like a bulletproof or a shallow one. This one has been pimped up with some parts by FU Tone, so you might want to check the website. He's the guy actually who improved the Floyd Rose dramatically with like this one. It's got like a brass block inside, which improves the sustain dramatically. It's got like stainless steel parts like the locking screws for the strings, titanium block inserts, which means that they don't rust at all, and it reduces the string breakage and increases the sustain as well. Stainless steel, what do you call them? Bridge saddle screws on there, and obviously top lock screws, because that's where your hands get in the way, and that's where the sweat goes in, and after a while it corrodes and then it gets stuck. This one here is equipped with Spurzl locking machine heads, which are really good. They've been around for quite a while now. You've got a Jazz 2 in the neck and a JB Trembucker in the bridge, and you've got a 3-way control switch and a 500K volume knob. Just one simple thing, and the input is in here, which is really good. Wood-wise, as I said, maple neck through, mahogany wings, real ebony tips on here and here at the top. So this is not just for looks, so also for stability. So if you knock into something, you don't get like a huge dent on it and stuff. This guitar has been, it's been built in between 2008 and 2009. It served me really well. It's done a couple of tours and it stays in tune. I have rarely had a string breakage on it, and let alone not, touch wood, string breakage on stage. It's really good, stable, so that's just the main essential. Also, part of all the essentials that we got here, which one is also very important, get yourself some decent picks. There are many good pick manufacturers, plectrum manufacturers out there. In that case, I'm using my Intune Jazz 2, customized pick from Intune. So Intune picks really good. Not very expensive. You just got to send them the right art logo and stuff, which is really good. It's better than a calling card, I guess. So this is really cool. Obviously here on the guitar as well, like strat locks from Dunlop, very, very important, you know. And what I also use is small little amps because they're portable, they're loud. I know you've got your X effects with your Matrix power amps, or you've got your, you know, you've got your Kempers out there, you know, which sound great as well. But what if they break down? It's only one unit, and if that breaks down, you're pretty much lost. You're pretty much dependent on what amp you've got there, and what if it's a Fender DeVille or just a clean amp, and you want to play heavy music, you're pretty much screwed, you know. Pedalboard. Also, you know, you got a good amp. You need to flavor it with, you know, a few pedals, you know, and I guess that the indispensable pedals on this pedal board are, for me, you know, the overdrive, which in this case is, I use several overdrives, but, you know, depending on what amp, but for this, in this scenario, and which is the most versatile, which is the, this one is the Seymour Duncan 805. It's based on a Tube Screamer circuit, but it hasn't got the same chip in it. And it's got an active EQ, whereas, you know, the regular Tube Screamers only have like a tone knob, which is pretty much passive, but this is an active EQ. Treble, mids, very, very important, and of course the bass, depending, you know, if I wouldn't be using, I could pretty much use this overdrive in front of any good, like, high gain amp to mid crunch amp like a JCM 800. And also indispensable, very, very important, and I'll enlighten you to that a little bit later, is the ISP decimator G-string, which is a noise reduction pedal. Very important if you want to do these staccato riffs and you want to make them sound as clean as possible, hum free. You know, that's very, so I would say these two pedals, if you know, if I'd had just to grab two pedals and I wouldn't be able to take a pedal board, I would grab this and a lithium battery and two cables supplied here. Also very important are, yeah, like I mentioned, the cables. In that case, I use this as an instrument cable. You can use the wireless, but what if the wireless breaks down on you? You know, you cannot really fix it instantly. A cable you can fix if you find somebody with a soldering iron, which I bet that most venues have, or most other bands would have as a spare. You would kindly ask them. These are noiseless plugs. You got an angled and a straight one. Why angled and straight? Because of the versatility. You can use that angled one to play with a Les Paul, and you can use a straight one to play with a Strat or a Flying V in my case. So both are silent. So this is very, very good. So you don't, you know, if you change guitars or you know, want to unplug very, very quickly without switching off the amp or putting the amp to standby, that's very, very handy. So that's a must. Other cables, because I'm using a 4 cable methods, because mostly I use amps with effects loop, because I use delays, and I tend to use my delay after the preamp, not in front of it, because I use it in conjunction with an overdrive through the preamp, which is usually like crunch high gain. It sounds better in the loop. So I've constructed a 3 cable, you know, snake, so to speak, for next to no money. And the cables that I mostly use as patch cables are the same that I use for the 3 cable method here in that case. So, and I've color coded it. The cables are George L's, which are solderless cables, which are brilliant. And I recently found out that Eric Johnson is using them as well. So, you know, they can't be that bad. So I really like them. I've been using them for years. Really reliable, strong as hell, you know, really clear signal, solderless. As I said, you don't need a soldering iron for that one. And I've color coordinate them, so I just, you can buy the caps, the rubber caps for it, but I just didn't want to, I went for a cheaper kind of solution. I color coded them with cable ties, so I usually use green to go out from any pedal that goes into my preamp. The yellow, anything that goes into my effects loop, from the pedal, from the effects to my effects loop, and the red one, which usually comes out of the delay of the effects into the return. So, and, to make things easy, I went to Maplin's and bought this rubber thingy here, this rubber hoe, and then just, pull them through. So it's much easier to assemble and fold up again. Right, and on to the small stuff. To power everything up, usually you need a good power supply, and also not to cheap out on that one. And in this example, I've got many power supplies. In this example, I use like a Powerall, which has got 1.7 amperes or 1,700 milliamperes. So that can supply a lot of pedals. Yeah, so that's very good. It's got a UK plug, but that's no problem. I got something else as well. Usually you can buy it at any airport, and I would suggest the Fuji multi-plug, which is very versatile. It's got like all the plugs in the world. European, UK, American, Chinese, whatever, and it's got like a fuse inside as well, which is great. Also, USB charge, you can charge up your phones, and I can charge up my lithium battery as well, and it's an adapter as well, so I can hook this up, without any problem. Preferably I use my lithium battery, which I'm going to show you. It's Pedal Train Volto rechargeable lithium battery, up to 36 hours if you used only just a couple of pedals. But I always charge it up every night or every 2 nights. So, and it's got, that one has got 2.0 amperes or 2,000 milliamperes. So 1,000 on each side. So shouldn't run out of power. It's got a big advantage as well because some venues, the power is not really good, not really clean and really regulated. So even if you have like a very good hush pedal, you tend to have a lot of buzz if you plug in your Walmart, if you power it directly. That's why the lithium battery comes in very, very, very handy. So it cuts off like all the extra frequencies, and it makes as I would say, explain it like a galvanic separation. So which means that you're not dependent upon the power on stage. So no stage on power, no power on stage. You can hook up this one and you're ready to go. That's always cool. And you can charge it, so that's pretty cool. What else have we got? So we've got like, the USB charger cable for the lithium battery. And you've got the little power plug to hook up your daisy chain. Let me show you the pedal board. Pedal board is very easy, very simple. As I said, everything is hooked up with George L cable, so in case that one cable goes down, I just cut the end off and then feed the end through and then screw it back on, and it's up and running again. This is a Crybaby 95Q, so it's an automatic one, which is really, really good. It's got like a booster as well, and it's got a frequency as well, which you can mess around depending, what cab, what venue you are. This board consists of 2 sections. This is the preamp, this is the effects loop section. So the preamp section is the wah-wah, the Maleko phase, the Sabre Duncan overdrive 805, and that goes into the preamp. Sorry, this one is hooked up to the ISP, which has got like a G-string, which is 2 loops, which gives you 2 hushes, like one which is a noise reduction, everything which goes into the amp, and then it has another loop which comes out of the send, goes into here, into my booster, TC Electronic Spark Booster, which is great, which has got like a latch switch. And the cool thing about this is like it's like a clean boost, so you can add another solo channel. So if you like your rhythm channel, my rhythm channel is not, my live rhythm channel I should say, is not that different from my solo channel. So I just need like to boost the volume and not the gain. So I use a clean boost. In this case I use a TC Electronic Spark Booster with a latch switch. Latch switch, which is great, which is silent, and it's not heavy as that true bypass switches that you've got here. And the great thing about this booster is that it's a momentary, it can be used as a momentary switch, which means that if you press it and hold it pressed, it's engaged. If you release it, it's disengaged. But if you have a solo for a longer period of time and you don't want to get glued to your pedal board, you just switch it on, do your solo, switch it off, job done. ISP decimator, and then obviously the flashback delay, which is really, really good. Usually I use 4 to 5 different delay settings with different delays. Not only times, but also level settings and feedback settings. And this pedal enables me to program all 4 different delays into one pedal. And the only thing which I'm still looking for is because I've assigned everything to the delay, this delay knob. So which means that if the delay knob is at minimum, I've got the fight mode. Fight mode is the beginning of a song. You hear like a really short delay, 274 milliseconds with a lot of with no feedback and with a lot of level. And usually I change this with my foot. If I change it to that position, it becomes like a lead tone, which means that I've got feedback, less level, and the delay time is longer, which is 387 milliseconds. And then when I bump it to the middle, I've got this also a delay which I use, an effect which I use at the beginning of a song called Ultimate Sacrifice, which has got 460 milliseconds and a lot of feedback basically, so it trails. And this pedal is perfect, so it, even if you switch it off, I got it on a buffered bypass, it trails afterwards. And when I've got it into this position, which in that case it's the 4th delay setting, it's like a really long, I call it the Brian May setting, because it's like 900 milliseconds, and I double and I play a harmony over the original the original note that I played before. And it's got a lot of feedback as well, which is great. So, and everything is powered up with a daisy chain, but in this case it's not from Powerall, it's from Diable. The reason why I like it is because it's got these angled, I don't know if you can see them, it's got these angled plugs, which, saves a lot of real estate, but also it's a lot sturdy as well, because if you got these straight ones, usually they take a lot of space, and if you happen to bump into with your foot into it or something, you break shit, and that's not really good. So that's the pedal board, and it comes in a nice neat case. It was made by Coffin Case, I think. So that's it. So, not to forget and not to crap out as well, usually I don't rely on a sound guide to give me like a good mic setting or whatever. I always travel with these ones. Now this is a direct box for guitars. This is the PDI-9 from Palmer, so which means that the signal which comes out of the amp with a speaker cable, so I go from the output of the amp into this, through there, into the cabinet, and it's got an XLR out, and it's got like different settings. You can have like a bright setting, a normal setting, and a mellow setting. So this is like a good SM57, and it's got a ground switch as well, which is great. So if something buzzes, and it's got like a dB control, so If you like to have your amp up loud but don't want to blast the sound guy with it, you can set it to minus 30 dB, 15, or you just play it flat out. So this is really, really handy. It saves a lot of time. There's no bleeding in with other instruments like drums and maybe bass guitar or another guitar, which usually comes through a microphone. So this is highly recommendable. What else? That's pretty much it. So let me show you how quickly you can set it up. So obviously I'm going to need some power. Yeah. For this example, I'm using my Marshall 4x12 with vintage 30s, the Crank Revolution Junior, which is absolutely beautiful. I got it set to the crunch sound, so only one channel, and I'm using the effects loop. So usually the first thing I do before I power up the amp is hook everything up, because I don't want to have any pops or any sounds, so I just go from right to left. Usually first I hook up my cable, my instrument cable. Right. Just like that, very neat and tight. For this example, I'm going to use the Volto power supply. So I hook up everything and I power everything up. So as you can see, or not, powers everything up nicely. Those things I don't need for now. And I plug in everything before I power up the amp. So I plug in the RET bits, the cable marked with the RET indicator, going from the output of my pedal mono into the return of my amp, my effects loop. And I go with that cable marked yellow into the send of my amp, and with the other yellow cable I go into the booster, and with the green one I go into my ISP decimator, and I go into the input. So now I'm pretty much hooked up. I switch on the noise reduction, or I leave it off just to see if everything comes on, and then I just listen. Yeah. It's going to take a while for the amp to heat up. Also to notice is just to keep the overall volume down, basically. Yeah. And that's very, 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 very important, you know, not that you just know to start. So the amp is hooked up, the pedals are hooked up. All we need to do is plug in and play. So first, now usually this is like a sound check situation. I go over that every pedal works. So I've got all the pedals switched off, that's why you hear the hum. And I just see if I get a straight signal. And then I switch on the noise reduction. You probably noticed that you don't hear a lot of hum right now, but this is a bedroom situation and all the levels are down. You should imagine yourself being on stage with a monitor in front of you, and there's a lot of noise going on, a lot of commotion, and you need to be very, very quick with your setup. And you know, the last thing you want to have is like something that feeds back because of your guitar. So what you're gonna have to learn to get used to if you are not playing, even though you've got a noise reduction, and and that's like a habit, which I forced upon myself, is just turn the volume down of the guitar. So you know you don't have any unexpected big sounds coming out, popping out. So even though you're not playing, turn the volume down. So, and then I usually check all my pedals if they work. Yeah. Then I check my phaser. Yeah, okay, and the overdrive. I do these short staccato notes just to check the levels of the amp, and just to check if the noise reduction, if the threshold is high enough. Not too high, because otherwise, it will hinder your playing. And then usually I do like short riffs. Yeah, now that works. Just as an example, if I'm gonna switch off the noise reduction just to see, maybe you'll be able to hear. If you listen very closely. I'm going to enhance that signal. Remember, the noise reduction is still switched off. With the wah-wah. Now imagine yourself being on stage. It's got to be much louder than it is now, because obviously now it's a bedroom level. It will already start to feedback. Yeah. So. What you can also do is, just to calibrate your threshold, is hold a guitar note and just to see if it doesn't kill it off too soon. Yeah, so that's well balanced. So now we've got the overdrive running, and now let's check the boost. Here, also depending on the amp, the effects level is very, very important. So you don't want to be like jumping out like that. All of a sudden you got solo, and you're playing, especially when you're playing with a second guitar player, that you're jumping out and you're drowning everybody else because your solo channel is too loud. So that's why it's very, very important to check it. And as I mentioned, it's a momentary latch switch as well. So if you keep it pressed in. And you could switch it on. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's working. See if the delay is working. Yeah, as you probably noticed here, you won't see it. I've got my level pretty high. For some reason, the tone prints that I created, somehow it needs not a lot of level. But that also depends on the kind of amp, the effects loop that you have. If you got a high quality effects loop, you probably don't need that much level on your delay just to get that really delay kind of sound back. But in this case, it's I wouldn't say it's a crappy effects loop, but it's like an average effects loop, I would say, on this amp. That's why I have the level pretty high. So this delay is pretty cool. So let's start with the first setting. So I've got the delay. Remember, I'm in my own tone print now, which I programmed through the program that comes with the pedal. That you know, if you hook up the computer, you can set your sound and create your own tone print. And just for the sake of you know, saving some real estate and some pedals, I programmed 4 different sounds into one tone print. You can do that actually, and it works pretty fine. The only thing you have to do is just remember to disable the feedback function and to enable to assign everything onto the delay time knob, which is the one here on the left hand side, top left. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll get like some device. They do it for the Boss pedals, but they don't do it for TC pedals, which they have obviously different knobs. They got like these really big, I would say, how do you call it, butterfly things that you can put on top of it, and then it's much easier to steer around. But for this, you know, as they don't have it right now, I still keep on using my foot. But it would be a great idea. I would have to patent it. Right, delay, flashback delay. Why do I love this delay? Because it's got a great sound. It trails. There are many other, like the Boss one, which is really, really good, but obviously the Boss DD7 doesn't have the tone print. If it would have a tone print, I would use the Boss one, because I think that the quality of the digital delay of the Boss ones is a bit more superior than anybody else, but that's just my own taste, you know, that's perfectly fine. Flashback is really, really good. It's packs a lot of features, even got a looper inside, which I won't do in this video. So anyway, this is the delay. I start off with my delay setting, so let's start with a minimal time. So this is like my fight setting, which is so it's like no feedback at all. It just gives you the settings are, the level is pretty high because you want to get the same level back. Yeah, so that's, you know, gives you the same sound back, and that's why you create that doubling effect. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And what I do, I take with my heel, I just advance it, and then you can see it changes instantly, all the settings. And see, it diminishes, the level goes down of the delay, so the delay that comes back is a lot lower in the mix, and the time of the delay, and you get a little bit of feedback as well. So yeah, so this is, and it trails as well, so just to prove, trails. Yeah. Moving on to the other delay, which is used for Ultimate Sacrifice. It's got a lot more feedback, a bit more level, and the time of the delay, I think it's 460. So if you start, usually the intros are I like this delay pretty much because you can do, it's based upon, you know, an old record which is called Lights Camera Revolution by Suicidal Tendencies, and the intro pretty much goes like. pretty wacko, and it's got a long trail to it. Let's do it again because it's so much fun. See, it trails long. Right, which brings me to my fourth delay setting. And this one, I call this one the Brian May setting because, you know, Brian May is one of my favorite guitar players, and he used to do that with 2 delay pedals because back in the day, they didn't have that long times on it. I think the longest time was like 600 milliseconds. So he put two delays after each other, and he created like this wall of sound, this really awesome sound that we know and love for him. It's almost like a doubling effect, but I decided to do 900, and I got like, you know, a few ideas and a few solo ideas, and it creates like, you know, a really cool sound. So this is what it sounds like. I love the setting. Okay, and while I was, you know, you can also prolong this note and, you know, make it longer, or you could program whichever you want to. So it's a very, very useful pedal. So this is like, you know, my sound. These are the sounds available. It's very versatile. The phaser I mostly use like for texture kind of thing. Let me show you an example. There's a song called Fresse, and it's only in the live version. It's not in the studio version, and for some reason I incorporated it live because it sounds so cool. So anyway, so let me show you the Meleko phase. To put a little bit of texture, I give you 2 examples. The first one is in Fresse, and the second one is in Masterstration. So the first one is in Fresse, so it's... Yeah, so that was Fresse. And the other example is, as I said before, it's in the song Masterstration. So it's a... What's also very cool is the the wah-wah. Let me just tell you a little story about this wah-wah. It's actually funny. I'm a Steve Vai fan. Obviously Steve Vai. Everybody knows Steve Vai. And I thought he was always playing. He had his own signature wah called the Bad Horsey wah from Morley, which is like big and huge. And what I didn't like about the Bad Horsey was that as soon as you switch it off, it takes a little while just to go back to the regular sound. There was a little latency in that, and that's what I didn't like. But for some reason, he started using that pedal. I was like, why is he doing that if he's got his own signature pedal? So it must be a little bit better. So I watched a couple of videos and I bought it, and I absolutely love this pedal. So because there's no click, there's no pop. It's just you just press on it and it works instantly, and it doesn't affect the sound too much. It's not true bypass, but it doesn't affect the sound too much. And if I wouldn't be singing in a band, I would go probably for a regular wah, which you could switch with a true bypass. I wouldn't mind that. But as I'm singing, I need something like really quick, easy, to access, and that's like from a regular. You can create that in a riff as well, so it's like a really cool So, I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Krimson the Diable. You can check me out on Facebook, or type in Facebook and search Emily Furnish. It's half a foxtrot.